What was your experience like in general? You spent a lot of time on a lot of episodes. When I looked you up, there's Pawn Stars, a couple others as well, right?
Yeah, Pawn
The
Stars. I did a cooking show with the French chef, Lido Bites America. What else? Yeah, Pawn Stars was
Garage
fun. I had a
Wars.
lot of fun on that.
Well, tell me what that
Storage
was.
Wars
What was Pawn Stars? Because the question everyone was asking, is it real? Like, how real is it? And what's it like to shoot in that?
So the things brought in are real on that show. They're actual, maybe they're actual high dollar antiques. Maybe they're not. The assessment you're getting is real. When they bring in an expert, that's all. But those people have been cast ahead of time. People are submitting like, well, this is my father's Revolutionary War musket, stuff like that. So they're cast, and things can get stale. Okay, we've done historical weapons too many times. We've done enough of those. Every now and then you get somebody who calls in something interesting. Like one of my favorite things I did on that show was somebody brought in a Volkswagen bus 26 window, which has those windows at the curve towards the roof.
Yeah.
Those things are extremely rare. And this one was perfectly restored. And I think at the time that thing was worth, the guy wanted $140,000 for it.
Wow.
I forgot who the character from the show was who appraised it, but he came down maybe 20,000 on it. But still, that's a lot of money. And I had no idea that like the 26 window VW bus was so rare. And in fact, they're all getting rare now. We used to see them all the time as kids. Now those things they've been picked over for parts.
Totally.
And the ones on the road are either restored or resto modded, and they're not going for cheap these days at all.
What are those two guys like?
It was professional kind of setting, and I liked it because I was signed on for a 12-hour day, but basically I was done when they were done.
And your role, just to be clear on that show, was you camera operator?
I was a camera operator, yeah.
Yeah.
And at that time they had started trying to build a mock-up set of the main shopping floor in the back of the building so that they could start shooting simultaneously. They could have, because they had to close down the store every time we wanted to shoot, because anybody who appears on camera has to sign a release, and it can get hard if it's like a open store, can't control the audio as well, all that kind of stuff. My time on it, they were working on building a set in the back to mimic the front. And yeah, it was fun. It was just like, they were nice guys. They came in, they did their thing, they went home. And by that time the show was a pretty big hit. The formula was there. Nobody was trying to find what the show was about. And that's always a good situation. If I'm day playing on a TV show, I like to come into a show that kind of knows what it's doing. I don't like going in and futzing around shooting a whole bunch of stuff that isn't going to make the cut anyway. So,
got it.
Yeah.
So let's talk about Jay Leno's Garage, because I was watching this show when he was on just YouTube, like a long time ago. And just because I've been fascinated with him and that car collection for a long time. I met him a few times at Cars and Coffee, where he usually used to bring something by, or that was cool. Met him and just said hi. A lot of people there, and he's extremely nice. But what's it like to be on that show? Because, before you answer that, I want to set the stage a little bit, because I have to mention one of my favorite shows of all time, which is the rebooted Top Gear 2002, Clarkson, May, Hammond. Because I think that sets a little bit of a stage. What did you think of that show? Because when it comes to cars, it's only a couple shows. They've really pulled this off. I feel like that's the king of that. Do you agree?
It is. Absolutely. I don't know if that genre has really been defined, but I think maybe I'd call it a car variety show. And as that kind of car show goes, they were the ones that wrote the book on it. And they in the reiterations of it here in America, nobody has ever been able to recapture the chemistry those guys had.
Is that what you think it is?
I think a huge part of that show was their chemistry. Just how they banter with each other. They're all very knowledgeable of cars. I don't know. I have a feeling they probably drove a lot of the gags that they did. Like, one of my favorites is when Clarkson drives an old Rolls Royce into a swimming pool.
I can't believe. Yeah, that's right. It's a great book. If you haven't read it, there's a book by one of the screenwriters, or one of the script editors. Sorry, it's called How We Made Top Gear, or it's called On That Bombshell: How We Made Top Gear. And it's hilarious. He just talks about what everyone did. And he's like, yeah, all the good ideas were Clarkson's. But there's so many. There's just so many insane things. I'm just like, how did you get this shot? So when they first started doing those huge trips, I thought that was fascinating, how they captured all that, like the Japan trip or the Africa trip. What's it like to shoot like that on location live? Is that like hey, put 50 cameras up and we'll figure it all out in the edit later?
No, I would assume that they had some level of scouting going on. I think I like traveling internationally. It is expensive because you have to carnet all your gear. You have to have local fixers, stuff like that. But I think they had a pretty good budget, and I think they were able to go ahead of time, or even before they've gone, they've probably worked out a route. Like, I think my favorite travel episode was the Vietnam one.
That was awesome.
I kind of wonder if some of the stuff was on the spot, like when they went and bought those suits. It's been a while since I've seen that episode, but I remember them getting this really swanky sharkskin suits or whatever. I feel like stuff like that is off the cuff, but the route they take and maybe the vehicles are pre-planned. When you're going to these places, you just have to be ready for anything. What you set up might not be what the reality when you get there. So I think it's a pre-planning as much as possible, and then being ready to pivot when you get there.
You think they wrote the book on making cars cool? Look cool.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. The B-roll of the cars, like we on Jay Leno's Garage try to emulate as much as we can. Yeah, at least at the start of it, when visual of a car would pop in our heads, it was that show. Like they'd use graduated filters to make the sky look darker and stuff like that. That was cool. We wanted to try to recreate that kind of stuff.
And who was responsible for that in that show? Do you know? Who created that Top Gear look? Because I don't think it saw it in the first or two seasons. I think it came in season 3. It felt like there was a definite change.
Yeah, I don't know. I'd have to look up who the DPs were, but I would assume maybe the first 2 seasons were a lower budget, because what I was saying earlier, it can take up to 2 or 3 seasons for a show to find its formula, and then it also has to have the ratings. And if it's got the ratings and it's got the formula, then you can get a good budget, get better cameras, get better support gear. You can hire a better DP who has more experience doing that kind of stuff. So I'd like to see, because I have a feeling maybe it's had a few different DPs, but then again, maybe it's also maybe just had one who just locked into it. So I don't know. I'd have to look.